They say love gives life meaning that even in the darkest places, a letter, a word, a connection can bring light. That's what Ethan was to me. I never meant to fall in love with a prisoner. When I first joined the prison pen pal program, it was just curiosity, a way to feel a little less alone in this vast, cold city. I never imagined I'd write to someone like Ethan Carter, and I definitely never imagined I would fall in love. But I did. His words, so rough at first, softened over time. The bitterness he carried began to melt, and in its place I found dreams, regrets, laughter. He called me the only light in his world of concrete and steel, and slowly, I let myself believe that maybe I was. We wrote every week, then every few days, then every night. I told him about my work, my childhood, my love for old movies, my view from the tiny window of my apartment, and he told me about the man he once was before prison stripped him down to just anger and survival. When he proposed in a letter rewritten 7 times, he later confessed I cried, not out of fear, but hope. It felt like someone saw me, the real me, not the shell, not the parts, me, Sophia, the woman I always knew I was inside. But I kept a secret, one I should have told him much earlier. I was born in a boy's body. I transitioned over time, slowly, painfully, deliberately, and though my life now looked like the woman I knew I was, there were still remnants of that past, things I hadn't changed yet. I told myself it didn't matter. He loved me for my soul, my words, my dreams. Didn't he? Still, the guilt ate at me, and as our first meeting drew near, I knew I couldn't carry the lie any further. The morning I went to see him, I was trembling, not because I feared him, but because I loved him. I wanted him to know the truth, to hear it from my lips before anyone else could twist it. I wanted him to see that everything I wrote, every I love you, was real. He looked at me like I was a miracle when he walked into that room. He touched me like he'd been starving. For a moment, we were everything I had dreamed of, until I told him, I'm transgender. Ethan, I was born in a man's body. Oh. I saw it then. The love leave his eyes, replaced by confusion, then betrayal, and finally rage. What came next? I remember only in fragments, his grip on my arms, his lips, no longer tender, pressing against mine in force, my pleas, my fear, my desperate attempt to make him see that I was still me. I begged him to stop. I begged him to understand. But humiliation can be a cruel fuel, rage, when mixed with shame, becomes a wildfire. When his hands tightened around my throat, my body betrayed me. I tried to fight, tried to speak, but air became a luxury I could no longer afford. My vision blurred. His face, the one I had kissed in my mind 100 times, hovered above me, contorted in rage and pain. I wanted to ask, where did you go? Where is the man who said he'd love me no matter what? But all I could do was stare, and even then, I made sure to stare with love, hoping he'd see it in my eyes. When the darkness came, it was quiet, almost peaceful. And then, nothing. They found me sprawled on the floor like a broken doll, bruises already blooming across my neck. A quiet scene, interrupted only by the buzz of alarms. I was already gone by the time anyone realized something was wrong. I wonder if they blamed me, if the guards, the investigators, the press, if they looked at my body and thought, she brought it on herself. But I didn't. I brought him hope. I brought him connection. I brought him a version of love that survived prison bars and loneliness and pain. And yet, to him, it was all undone, with one truth that I was not born in the body he expected. That love, no matter how tender, no matter how genuine, suddenly meant nothing. I didn't die because I deceived him. I died because he couldn't bear what other men would say. He was afraid they'd laugh, that he'd no longer be a man among men. So instead of facing that shame, he killed the one person who saw past the walls, past his record, past his anger, past his fear. He killed me, not because of what I was, but because I held a mirror to everything he couldn't face in himself. After I died, I watched, yes, somehow. I watched as they put Ethan in an isolation cell, a grey box with no windows, just 4 blank walls to reflect the weight of what he had done. He cried, cried like a boy who realized too late that love is not about appearances, but truth. He held the last photo of me, the one I had taken near the park. Hair soft, eyes smiling, and he wept. He whispered my name into the silence, Sophia, over and over. But the walls didn't answer. I couldn't, either. And somewhere far away, my mother was sitting alone in a plastic chair at the prison visitor center, staring at the clock, waiting, hoping I would walk back through those doors. I never did. When they told her, when they said she needed to identify the body, I wonder if her knees gave out. I wonder if she screamed. I like to think she stayed strong for me. She always had. They buried me in a modest casket. A few friends gathered around. No headline honored me. No protest was held in my name, but in my mother's home, in a small box tied with ribbon, sit every letter Ethan ever wrote me. She read them, one by one. She cried for the tenderness in them. She mourned the man he had once been, the one I believed in. And when she found my last unsent letter, her hands shook. She clutched it to her heart. Maybe she finally understood that I wasn't ashamed of who I was. I was afraid, but never ashamed. If I could speak one last time, not as a victim, not even as a ghost, but as the woman I truly was, I would ask the world one simple thing. Don't let my death be the only thing you remember about me. I was more than what happened in that visiting room, more than the silence that followed, more than the hands that took my life. I was a life that wrote love into the dark corners of a prison cell, a life that believed in someone even when the world told me not to, a life that wanted to be seen, not just looked at, but truly seen. You see, love didn't fail me. Shame did. Ethan loved me, I believe that. But prison taught him that being vulnerable was weakness, that being different made you a target, that real men never bend, never break, never cry. And when I didn't fit the box of wife the world told him to expect, he broke, not me. He broke. Still, I forgive him. Not because he deserves it, but because I do. I deserve peace. I deserve release. I deserve not to be remembered only for how I died, but for how I lived, for how I loved, for how I refused to hide. To the girl who feels unseen, to the boy trapped in the wrong mirror, to anyone who fears they'll never be enough just by being themselves, hear me. You are enough. And if the world cannot love you for who you are, that is the world's failure, not yours. Let them write headlines about tragedy, but let our lives whisper something louder. That we existed, that we mattered, that we loved with everything we had, and we were never wrong for doing so. Goodbye, Ethan. Goodbye, Mama. Goodbye, world that couldn't hold me as I was. I was Sophia. I am Sophia, and I will not be erased.